The health emergency has been a financial crisis for many Boston renters, as well as some of their property owners. In response, Mayor Walsh has set aside $3 million in emergency funding. The money's for renters at risk of displacement because of COVID-19. To tell us how the city can help is the operations manager in the Office of Housing Stability in the Department of Neighborhood Development, Katie Forde. Thank you very much for being with us, Katie.
Thank you.
Katie, I want to start with what you do there at the office. You're helping people with problems all the time, of course, but how has that changed in the last 3 or 4 weeks?
Sure. So just briefly about our office, we were established in 2016 as part of the Mayor's 2030 housing plan. And we've always focused primarily on preventing evictions and displacement in the city of Boston. So prior to COVID-19, we were receiving about 100 calls a week, opening about 100 cases. And we had, about 500 a month. So yeah, a little over 100 a week. And we were dealing with folks who were being displaced or evicted. So we saw an uptick as the COVID-19 crisis started. When the state of emergency was declared, we saw an uptick in our cases. Folks worried about April 1st. And so as a result of that, we decided to come up with this money to help with rent relief for people who are not covered by unemployment insurance benefits and for people who lost their jobs or income primarily to COVID-19.
Now, I imagine here you're talking about a spectrum, and there are some renters who have some reserves that can go through a rough patch for a while, and there are some property owners who can go through a rough patch for a while. But what about people who can't?
Right. So for anyone who's having trouble paying their April rent, you need to communicate that with your landlord. That's the first thing. And if you're continuing to have trouble communicating that with your landlord, I would encourage you to contact our office so we can help you with that. But the main thing that we're seeing from folks is that they want to know about any resource out there that's possible. So we want to make sure that people understand that $3 million is never going to meet the need of all the renters in the city of Boston who are facing issues paying April and May rent. But we expect this to be just the first round of funding. And we also anticipate next week the State House passing an evictions moratorium. So we're coming up with other protections for tenants as well if you do not qualify for financial assistance.
Now, I know a lot of people might say that at a time like this, a lot of people are out of work. They don't have the money. So telling the landlord something isn't necessarily breaking news, but why does it help to communicate?
So we've had actually a lot of calls into the hotline starting a couple weeks ago where landlords, not all landlords are bad, but there's a few bad actors out there, and they just decided to change the locks on tenants who hadn't paid rent. So we've been dealing with that. So that is why it's really important to communicate with your landlord. And if you're having issues communicating with your landlord, please contact our office so we can help you with that. We have a great landlord mediation program, and then our housing crisis coordinators can also speak with your landlord to help them know that what the options are out there for them.
So what I'm reading between the lines here in a way is a tenant who calls a landlord, tries to be responsible and proactive. If there's any kind of legal conflict, I guess this is an advantage.
So I wouldn't say it's an advantage, but I think it's just an advantage to you. A lot of people live in landlord-owned housing, so your landlord could be your neighbor. So it's just, you don't want it to be an uncomfortable relationship. A lot of landlords understand what's going on, and they're trying to work with their own lenders to defer their mortgage payments. So they're kind of in the same boat that the renter's in. But I think having that open line of communications is key. And
by the way,
I would also try and I would advise people to shoot an email over to their landlords if they're having trouble paying rent.
By the way, is there any difference that you can see between these kind of local small landlords and some of the corporate landlords who can have, almost a form letter sent out to people to scare them?
Sure. So to avoid all the form letters being sent out, the city worked with bigger landlords and management companies to kind of do an eviction moratorium where they weren't going to go after tenants during this time. And then the same with BHA is also not going after anybody for non-payment at this time. So that kind of avoided that. So a lot of the calls we are getting are from some smaller landlords having this issue. But our office is there to work with landlords and tenants as well.
This is a fund with $3 million that the mayor has set aside. How can it help a renter with a problem? How much can they get, and what kind of eligibility would be brought into play?
Sure. So I would encourage everyone to go to boston.gov/rental relief. There's all the eligibility requirements are listed on the website, as well as a pre-screening application for folks. So that'll put you into a lottery. The lottery is going to end Friday at 12 p.m. and then we will conduct the lottery the application process will end Friday at 12 p.m. and the lottery will be held Monday. So I would encourage everyone to get their pre-screened applications in, and our office will contact you with next steps after you submit that application. If you have questions or issues with filling out the application online, please call our hotline or 311. Our hotline is 617-635-4200.
We should also work in here if there's any way that people can get answers if they're speaking a language other than English.
Yes, so there's actually 6 languages up on the website. It's kind of in the middle of the web page, which can be confusing for folks. But again, if you're having any issues with the website, please call our office and we'll actually have the person who's picking up the phone will actually go through the application and submit it for the person if they're having issues.
Well, because it's so important, I need that phone number one more time from you, Katie.
Sure, 617-635-4200, or you can call 311.